It is the noon hour. That means time for Senior Talk, which is brought to you by the Solon American Legion. And here's your host, Rex Brandstatter.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. It is time for Senior Talk, and what better way to start a week than a good old update from the Johnson County Fair. I've been there many, many times over a period of my lifespan. We used to go down there all the time. Actually, I was down there last Saturday afternoon. I was the MC for the Bill Riley Talent Show. And I'm telling you, those kids are from ages, open from age 2 to 21. And we didn't have any two-year-olds down there other than me. And it's quite a deal. I don't remember who won the small division, the Sprout division is called. But the senior division at the Johnson County Fair was won by two sisters from Manson, Iowa, and they're cloggers. And one's 13 and one's 16, I think, or 12 and 4, long in there. And those girls up on that stage, absolutely, you could hear them a mile away. So if you watch the Bill Riley Talent Show in a couple of weeks at the Iowa State Fair and see the two sisters from Manson, Iowa, they qualified right here at the Johnson County Fair, and they really put on a show. Got a huge round of applause, as did all the kids who did. I had a great time at the Johnson County Fair, so I bet my friend Jim is having a lemonade shake and a pork burger or a hamburger, whatever's on the bill of fare as well. That's the Johnson County Fair, and it's fair season. It is in Iowa. Well, listen, the weekly program called Senior Talk is on the air, and it is for seniors and those who hope to become a senior someday. You never know. So hello and thank you all for listening to Senior Talk. It's really not easy even being a senior, and we'll talk about that. Things like retirement is in the wind, or maybe you've already retired, or your health, and that obviously is number one. Health and income or lack thereof, financial issues, expenses, your family, of course, living arrangements, and more. And we'll work on all of these and more as we go along with Senior Talk. If you listen, we talk about one of these or more every week for sure as things come up, and I do my best to bring them to you. And you actually might hear something that can help you, or even a member of your family, or even a friend, or the guys down at the coffee shop, or whatever you ladies go and meet your friends, and maybe something comes up, or you heard this or you heard that, and they could check it out if it made sense to them. So grab yourself a sandwich and a nice cold root beer, and let's see what we can cook up here on Senior Talk. My name is Rex Brandstatter. I'm 75 years old. Thank you, God. And I've been a licensed real estate broker here in Iowa since 1974. And enjoying every minute of it, by the way. I work mainly with seniors and senior families. I meet with the seniors who want to talk about, well, we don't want to move now, but we might want to move in a couple years, or we're thinking about this. If we sold our house now, what are the income tax ramifications? Just had a friend of mine who moved from Tiffin to North Carolina, and kind of helped him a little bit with some tax ideas there. And they're limited, so you don't have many taxes when you sell your own home. But another friend of mine lives in Iowa City. He's going to move to Wisconsin, and we're putting together a plan for him where he can end up not paying any capital gains, we're going to call them, on selling a house in Iowa City and living in the one in Wisconsin for a minimum of 2 years. We're putting that together for him right now. So if you'd like to talk, I meet with you at your home. I meet with you at my office. I meet with you at the coffee shop. I meet with you at your bank, with your attorney, all things like that. I do work with trust departments of banks. CPAs call me and trying to get some ideas. Not that I have any expertise in their field. I don't mean that, but they call me refer people to me to help them with the housing. So that's the story. Feel free to give me a call on my senior line, which is always available at 319-330-5534. That's my number, 330-5534 for sure. And I want to announce that it's sweet corn time. If you haven't stopped in your local on any street corner, just about sweet corn stand, well, I get to it. It's really good. We've had a couple different batches of it. It's really, really good. It's the best in the world, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, right here in Iowa, and it's not very expensive, and it's just really great stuff and part of being in Iowa. So if you're visiting, make your host take you out and get you some sweet corn down at the grocery store. As long as it's grown in Iowa, that's the best there is for sure. Well, first of all, I've got an Olympic update. You know, KCJJ, they demand Olympic updates and worldwide events here. So I've got an Olympic update, and the grand opening, or the big opening, is this Friday night, I believe 7 o'clock. And I'll probably be busy anyhow. But here's an Olympic update for you. The Olympic gold medal, the actual gold medal that they give to those who win the gold medal, it is made of 92.5% silver or more. Who can you trust in this world if the gold medal isn't gold? It's too expensive, I assume, was what happened there. So your Olympic gold medal, when you see our guys and women up on the stand getting the gold medals, hopefully some right here at the University of Iowa, that gold medal is made out of silver, but probably got gold paint on there from Costco or something. I don't know. Anyhow, that's a story. It's not about the medal. It's about the work and effort and the ambiance of the whole thing, and for sure, that's the deal. So I thought this kind of interesting. So the gold medal is actually made out of silver and painted somehow in gold. Well, so be it. I'd like to have one. Well, I met a real nice senior man at the county fair last Saturday. I truly did. And he told me that he listens to Senior Talk, and he agrees with one of my suggestions. Not all of them, of course, and my wife doesn't agree with hardly any of them. And here's what he said to me. This is a really nice conversation. He introduced himself. I believe his name is Jim. And he said, I'm working on getting rid of stuff, just like you always talk about on Senior Talk. And he says, but I've got one problem. And I said, well, if you only got one problem, you're doing pretty good. He says, no, I've got more than one. But he says, I've got one problem getting rid of my stuff. And he says, I cannot get my kids to come and get their stuff. And he said, what can I do? And he was dead serious. I said, well, number one, are your kids adult kids? Now, he was obviously a senior to me. And he said, yeah, they're adult kids. And I said, you're storing their things. Oh, yeah, I have been for years. And I said, well, I rolled my eyes. I said, that's not good, is it? And he goes, no, it's not. And he says, I'm trying to downsize, and their stuff is in the way, and I can't work around it. What do I do? I said, well, this is a real issue for seniors. It is a real issue for seniors. All right, you are harboring or warehousing, we're going to call it, all of your stuff, of course, that you probably need to get rid of, and their stuff too. And this is actually a tough one, and here's what I suggest you do. I can't tell you what to do, nor would I do that, but I said I want you to do this. I want you to analyze things based on what you know about their current status. So let's say he's got a son and a daughter, both storing stuff there. Or that's what our premise is. Do they live close? Do they have a place to take this stuff? If you think about that, this stuff that's at yours, it must not be too important to them if it's at your house. You ever think that through? It must not be real important to them if they just leave it at your house. I see we're starting to close the old fence in on these folks here now, all right? It's handy for them, and you don't charge them. It's what's going on. Weigh the outcome of a change and then tell them to come and get it. Now, what they could do is they could tell you, no, Dad, I've had it there for 14 years. We're going to get ready to do that. We're going to build a new house, or I'm going to put it in my basement and say, okay, that's fine, but it needs to be out here. And my suggestion is give them a date. Give them a date. Well, I don't know what to do. What am I going to do? You say, well, I don't care what you do. It's your stuff. But by such and stuff, after you analyze their situation, they don't have room and things like that. However, what do people who have too much stuff do if they don't have a place to do it? They rent a storage garage. The only reason your kids don't rent a storage garage is because it's you who are the problem. You have let them do that at no charge, I'm going to assume. I'm not a parent, but that sounds normal. But now it's in your way. So now it's time for you to give them a little bit of notice, put your foot down, say, here's the way it's going to be. I want to downsize, all this stuff. Well, Dad, I'll move it over here. I'll get rid of it. No. And that's not you're not making them deals. You're making them a rule. You're not making a deal. You're making a rule. The only part of a settlement you take is the date. Well, what if I don't get it out after that date? And then your answer needs to be this. Then it's going to be up to me what happens to it. That would throw the fear of God into them, because you might think dumpster, you might think Joe's hauling service to haul it away to wherever Joe's takes it, that type of thing. If it's not a problem for you, you don't worry about it. When it becomes a problem and an issue and in your way, and you'd rather do something else with your house, your garage, wherever it might be, then you are the boss. And you haven't been, and I told him that, so you need to kind of do this. It sounds terrible. Well, they're my kids. I said, I know that. And my dad came to my brother and I after we had gone off to college and moved out, and he said, he said to he was a little tougher. He said, you have 30 days to get your stuff out here, or I'm going to deal with it. So we went out, and I took all of our stuff, whatever it was. I don't remember what it all was, but went and got all our stuff. I think I had an outboard motor in the garage or somewhere. I know I did. And shotguns, that kind of stuff. So I went and got all my stuff, and I never looked back. So that's what I think this gentleman could do. And thanks for listening, by the way. I really appreciate that. It was nice to have you come up and say hi to me, and I hope that we had a good conversation. So that's my take on it. You certainly do as you see fit on this thing, all right? Well, a senior lady tells me this. My friend and I were at a local restaurant trying to have a cup of coffee and just chat. This was last week. We do it all the time, pretty much the same restaurant. Kind of always in the back there. It's a little quieter. Well, we were seated real close to a table of 8 other seniors who also meet there once in a while. She said they were so loud. She just shook her head. They were so loud. Laughing, telling stories, talking. Now, that all sounds great. That sounds like I need to be there. But 2 of them, excuse me, ladies, 2 of them obviously could not hear, as they had to have most of the stuff repeated real loud to them. So the normal banter of the group was loud and laughing and carrying on and telling the story. That sounds fun. That sounds great. But then 2 of them were sitting in, what? What'd they say about 1952? That type of thing. So then they had to basically yell at them. So what does that tell you? Well, I tell you what it tells me. It tells me that 2 people refused to go get a hearing test. I think they need a trip to the hearing clinic. Why don't people get a hearing check? It was real upsetting to a lot of people, as she said, as several of them had to move. So other people in the restaurant move. So the answer to it is, why don't people go get a hearing check, is this. We don't want to admit that we have a little issue hearing. We don't want to go to the hearing place and have someone tell us we need a hearing aid. We don't want to go somewhere and pay money to have them tell us we have a hearing issue. We know that. We don't want to wear hearing aids, all those things. We don't want to admit we have a hearing issue. We don't want to go to see the hearing doctor because he's going to charge you, and he's going to tell you, he or she is going to tell you that you have a hearing issue. And then they're going to lay out a chart. Here's what they would do. Here, what they recommend. It's going to cost you some money. You do realize, ladies and gentlemen, that hearing issues have been related directly to your health, including ALZ, Alzheimer's. Direct correlation to some magnitude. So these folks over there are doing what? They're being, in my opinion, and I'm probably stepping on toes, so be it. It is, I'm just reporting, is that they're being a little selfish because they won't admit that they have a hearing issue. They won't go to get a hearing test. And they're sure when they get the test results, which they already know about the results are going to be, that they don't want to wear hearing aids. So they've got 3 or 4 issues there. So that's that. So this lady says, well, my friend and I, we're going to still go and have a coffee, but we're never going to sit close to that group again. Well, that's the first line of defense. That's good for you. That's your first decision. The other decision would come from the people who can't hear. Is this you? Am I talking to you, the one in your home who cannot hear? Well, you as a man, we tune our wives out years ago. I admit I did have a hearing test. I did, and they said, well, you're getting close in the left ear. And so I try to keep my right ear, the left ear can't hear, and I try to keep my right ear blocked off so I can't hear my wife out of that one either. So I have very limited hearing when my wife talks. Anyhow, so it happens. It's part of age, and or maybe it could be induced by where your work environment over the years. You never know. So folks, sit up straight in the chair, and wives, if this is your husband, go tell him one more time you've had it with his not hearing, paying attention, repeating things, butting into conversations, all those things that happen. Get with it. Get with it, for ladies and gentlemen, for God's sake. That's nice. A senior lady tells me, she said, I lost a week of vacation this week. I said, oh, how'd you do that? She said, well, my husband is older now and no longer to go on RAGBRAI due to health. She considered it a 1-week vacation for herself, too, while he was gone. So she was kind of shaking her head, kind of half laughing, other than his health issue, which said he no longer can go starting this year on regular after 20 or 30 some years. So she says, I don't have the week off now. Well, that's the way we have to look at it, absolutely the way we look at it. So, a senior man tells me, he says, I have decided that our house is too small. And I've been looking at houses, we've been looking at houses, and quite honestly, we go look at the prices and we go back home and say, we can afford them, we don't want to afford them. So we talked, and I'm going to knock out a couple walls and make a couple rooms bigger. Well, great plan. What background do you have? Do you have a contracting background? Well, no, I got a friend of mine. Well, this is like you and your brother-in-law are going to build a rocket ship, only this isn't to that level. But the answer to that is no. They're seniors, and I'm not picking on seniors for sure because I am one. I'm proud of it. But do you have a plan? Well, no. Do you know which walls are support walls? Well, I haven't done my homework yet. Well, then how do you know which rooms to make bigger if you can't take out a wall here or there? Well, we need it. I said, what's the scoop? Well, we hang around in the kitchen and the living room more than we ever did. The bedrooms are not just a place to sleep, of course, and we don't need this or that, so I've got a plan. I said, well, that's great, as a matter of fact, but you have a plan. I said, you need to get a plan with the contractor's minimum opinion. Get a friend of yours who is a contractor. If you don't want to pay the money, that's your business. I don't care, but get a plan and go from there. Speaking of plan, have you planned to get a permit for this work? Now, you can tear everything, all the things down you want, but if you're going to remodel your house, you're going to have to get a building permit. And when you go get a building permit, wherever you live, I believe he lives in Iowa City, you're going to have to take a plan in there. You can do the work yourself. They're going to ask you who the contractor's license, the electricians. Well, there's just one outlet. I can move that. Well, it's your house. You can do those things. Right? That's your business. Do you think you're expertise enough to do it right? Here's one that your wife will ask you. You'll never get done, Fred. You'll never get it done. Are you dedicated enough to start it and get it done in what we call a professional workmanship-like manner in the real estate business? Will it look as nice, as professional as when they built your house when you first moved in? Do you know if it's going to require changes to the electrical? How about the HVAC, the air conditioning ducts? Are any electrical wires where you're going to go behind and hit? You're going to start with a screwdriver and a nail and hit something? I don't think this man's done all that kind of homework. I don't think he really even knows what walls he can or can't take down. And I said, so when you get done, what are you going to have? I said, the standard of the industry in the real estate business is a 3-bedroom home with a single car or 2-car attached garage with a full basement. What are you going to have? Well, I'll have probably, if I do it what I want, a 1-bedroom house. I said, you're just shooting yourself in the foot with resale. Not that somebody wouldn't buy it, but I suggest that if you eliminate 1 bedroom, not 2, so you end up with 1 bedroom and maybe an office type of thing. That's a big deal. So I did, before you do the plan, plan the work is what I told him. I'm not sure he wanted to hear all that. I think he was ready to get the old sledgehammer out and start hauling stuff away. And I said, and remember this, you can't put that stuff out at the curb. Are you prepared to haul it to the landfill? He said, what? I said, you can't put the construction stuff out to the curb. You're going to get a dumpster. I don't want to do that. I mean, I think he was way early. He just happened to tell me, and I landed on him a little bit. So knock yourself out. Do it. Just go get some plans and work on your plans. Do it professionally, and then you'll have a much better scenario and a much better end game for sure. All right. I said sheetrock. I said, are you pretty good at sheetrock, nailing and taping? And he's kind of looked at me like I was from Mars. So no, I don't think he's thought it through. Well, a big trend for vacationing seniors, ladies and gentlemen, this is the hottest thing, is a senior bus tour. Yes, seniors getting on a bus with other people and heading the highways. All right. I am aware of several local seniors who do this all the time. Matter of fact, one two, three couples we know, they do it in 1 year they'll do spring and fall. The next year they'll do spring and summer. That they in different parts of the country, and they might drive somewhere to get on the tour. They don't all start in Iowa City, but away they go. And we have some good friends now. They're heading out west, and we know friends who have been the tours of the West and Southwest and down in Dixie and the Civil War sites and the colonial revolutionary sites, and there's no driving involved other than you have to get to where it starts and drive back, of course. And it's attractions, hotels and foods all lined up. You sit your old rear end down on a bus, air-conditioned bus, heated bus, depending on the time of year, and they take you to Devil's Tower in Wyoming. They take you to the Grand Canyon. Take you to Pikes Peak. They take you to the Civil War battles down in Georgia fields and Alabama and Tennessee. You could take baseball stadium tours called the Bambino Tour, or you start sometimes in Chicago, and you go to Cleveland, and you go to New York, and you go to Philadelphia, and you go to Boston. That's called the Bambino Tour because that's a tour that the Babe Ruth and his gang would have taken. Lots and lots of interesting tours that I think it's a neat way to go. I really, really do, especially you can leave the driving to somebody else. You get to where you're going to go. You're not all beat up, and you can go take a nap and a shower at a nice hotel and meet some people or go on your own to have something to eat and hit the trail the next day for some really, really nice sightseeing. I think it's a great way to go. I think the upside to senior travels on bus tours is really big, and I'm kind of thinking about one for my wife and I this fall, as a matter of fact. We'll see. So I'll probably have to ask her first rather than springing on her. That's for sure. Well, so it's a big thing, and I don't know the expenses. You have to figure that out yourself. If you add it all up with gas and hotels and driving and a flat tire and oil changes, stuff like that, get on the bus and go to it, folks, for sure. Speaking of tours, the Johnson County Historical Society is hosting a local barn tour. And you take the bus, and I think it's coming up in August, and have a whole lot of fun. And you can go to the website, the Johnson County Historical Society. Just go to Google, say Johnson County Historical Society, and up will pop up their website and their phone numbers at the museum out in Coralville, which is not open on Mondays, and they can give you all the scoop, and they'll give you a website you can visit, and you can go out there and pick up a brochure. And most of them are right around here. You're not going to be traveling into Missouri or Illinois. I think they're right around Johnson County here, and they have other things lined up too. It's very popular, and they haven't had one for a while, and so it's going to sell out if it's not already. I know it's not sold out. It's very close. So give them a call. You drive around Johnson County, and then when you do, if you drive around Johnson County right now, you're going to run into road work. And the only good thing about road work is they're doing it. Okay, there's some road work that needs to be done all over Johnson County, Iowa City, all those areas for sure. And they're doing it in the summer 1 week. Quite frankly, a lot of people are gone. And those of us who are here, we expect it to be a pain in the butt this time of year, and it is. But the byproduct in the end game is great when they fix the intersection or fix that. That's good. So interesting. You go down one street, there's never enough detours. You can't take hardly a city street without a detour right now. Well, I had a senior lady call and tell me some of the things that she has dealt with over the past few years. She said, I'm 77 years old. I'm feeling well, living alone. I'm active and all that, she said. But I do notice some changes. So she says she's 77, feeling well, living alone, active, and all that, she says. But I do notice some changes. She says, if I drop something, I have to position myself in order to bend down and get back upright. Well, join the crowd. All right. I make a list of lots of things to do, and I add to it daily. And then I do them in one trip. I'm long over and long past the days trying to remember everything. It is helpful as gas is expensive these days. Well, this sounds so elementary, but how many of you listening, or even me, well, I'm going to stop at the grocery store and pick up 3 or 4 of this. I got to make sure I get that. And you get home, and you didn't have number 2. You didn't have the one you really, honest to God, went in there to get. You didn't get that one. I've done that, and I feel like such a dope, which I am. So I'm pretty religious now. I'm pretty happy by going to the grocery store with a list. It's almost a crutch. I don't have to think about it. I go in there. There's my list. Now, I'm exactly what the grocery store wants and exactly what they tell you not to do. I go in and buy stuff I don't want or need. I say, oh, that's on sale, maybe. But it's not a good deal unless you use it. But I might buy something just to treat myself. I do it all the time. All right? So this lady, that's one thing she's noticed a change in her lifestyle. Even though I live alone, I have a menu plan. I have to try to keep things interesting, all right? I do go out, but I also enjoy fixing for myself. Okay, so there's another thing she's done. She decided that she can't eat at home every night. She doesn't want to get in that trap, and she says, I can't go out every night. Maybe she said can't afford it. She didn't say that, but I'm just saying what she said is she likes to do them both. Good for her. And she likes to jazz up her menu, change it up rather than have every Tuesday night meatloaf, that type of thing. All right. She says, I have a bedside radio that comes on at 6:30 in the morning. Local station. I hope it's KCJJ. I don't know. I love getting up a little after it comes on, she says. I don't go anywhere for a while, but I'm not going to be lollygagging all day in bed. This lady's kind of kicking butt. She's 77 years old. I like this. She gets the alarm clock going off, and not long thereafter, she says she gets up and gets started for the day. Good for her. And she says, for the last 3 or 4 years, part of my daily routine, she said about 4 times, daily routine is walking. I go to a mall a lot, one on the east side of Iowa City, one in Corville a lot. And it's warm in the winter and cool in the summer, and I also walk around the neighborhood. She said, walking sure works for me. And she was all fired up to tell me all these things, ladies and gentlemen. I just sat there and listened to her. And she's like what they call a one-man party. She's a one-lady party in real life, and she's really enjoying it. All right. Well, I was out walking the other day, one of my little walk trips, which I have gotten into a habit of doing for the last 3 years, and I really enjoy it. Do it daily, a couple of times at a minimum. And I remembered a fascinating story of Calvin Hall. I was downtown. I took the bus from Corville to downtown Iowa City to the Pentecrest, and then I walked back to Corville. That's one of my deals. But I walk through, a lot of times I walk through university buildings and look at highlights, and I got to thinking about Calvin Hall, and I remembered the story of Calvin Hall. Now, Calvin Hall was Sam Calvin, who was he was a geology and science professor at the university in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And there's a building now named after him on campus. It's called Calvin Hall, named after Professor Calvin Hall. Go figure, or Professor Calvin. Professor Calvin. It's called Calvin Hall, named after Professor Samuel Calvin. And it's at the top of the hill from the Iowa Memorial Union. So if you go to the Union and turn to the east and go up Jefferson Street, just before you get to the top of the hill, it's on the left-hand side, the north side, it faces south, and it's a big, beautiful red brick building. It sits on the side hill there. And then if you come out the front door, you got to walk up steps to get to the front door. It's kind of a challenge. There are ground level steps around back, by the way. And so you walk up the steps to the hill, or you walk from downtown the Pentecrest down, which is what I did. I got off the bus and walked down the hill my way to Corbin and walked into Calvin Hall. Well, here's the story of Calvin Hall. You might not know this or remember this, but this is a true story, and I think it's well worth it. I stopped in there just to make sure that it was still there and what I remembered seeing there. I never had a class there. For some reason, there was a girl I was interested in, and she had a class there, or I had worked part-time for university there as a student, so I was always hanging around over there trying to talk to her. So I've been in the place, but not for a long time, and it's just beautiful inside. Back in 1905, the very idea of rolling a 6,000-ton University of Iowa science building across Jefferson Street sounded like one of, like you're on Mars. I know you're in the funny paper. Well, who would do that? Incredible and impossible as it may seem, even today in 2024. Remember, this is 1906. You're talking horses. You're talking total manpower, folks. The then 20-year-old 3-story building. So it was 20 years old. It was only 20 years old. Now, Rex, why did they have to move? It was 20 years old, and it sat over there where McBride Hall is right now. So why would they do that? Why would they have to move? Well, Sam Calvin was in cahoots with the new president of the university, George McLean, who came here from the University of Nebraska. And they decided that there were 5 or 6, they realized there were 5 or 6 other less impressive buildings kind of in the same area of what we now know as the Pentacrest. There were 6 other buildings there, and they were kind of lesser buildings, which meaning they were probably, in fact, I've seen some older photos. They were dimension lumber type thing, had real low slope roofs. Had low slope roofs and different roof lines over there, and they were just not looking good, drawing any attention to the university in the manner they wanted. So President McLean and Mr. Calvin Hall, that's McLean Hall, by the way. Remember, this building sat where McBride Auditorium is. Have you been in McBride Auditorium? If you are a student, maybe you had a class over there. I had a class over there. Have you been in the auditorium? The bird and the orama, bird-orama is up in there, the nature-orama. Still there, still free. You can still take your grandkids there. You still have a lot of fun in McBride Hall. Well, that's where Calvin Hall sat. It was called the Science Building, Science Hall. Well, what they did was they had a definite plan for the rebuilding the campus when he arrived. McLean did when he arrived at the University of Iowa. And while it was logical and forward-looking, it was too ambitious and way too advanced for anybody with a logical brain power. So, well, you can't move that for God's sakes. He's too big and too well. It didn't stop him. They said that would be the biggest folly that the university had ever considered, and or even alone attempted. 6,000 tons, and they had to move it. The building is 115 feet long by 80 feet wide. I mean, it's huge. It's 3-story brick. So McBride from McBride Hall and Calvin ignored the skepticism and pulled this thing off. 3 Chicago firms, a mover from Kansas City, 1 from Cedar Rapids, and 2 from Iowa City bid on the job, though those from Iowa City were not considered qualified. In other words, you and I, Rex and Jane's, the construction company, moving company, we made a bid and we didn't get it. Well, we couldn't handle it anyhow. We'd have wrecked the whole thing. Well, LP Freestaff of Chicago, brick building raisers and movers, was awarded the contract with the low bid. Are you sitting down? The low bid to move that building in 1906, $18,000. You couldn't even get an estimate. They'd charge you for an estimate for $18,000 for coming out to campus now just to look at the thing, or more. The job required 5 months. It took April through August of 1905, excuse me. Classes were continued right through the move. With nary a beaker of acid upset. It was a science building. They kept having class in the building. Actually, the movement of the building was so slow it did not even appear it was moving. 27 freight car loads of heavy timbers, jacks, and jack screws were sent to Iowa City. Wow. Some days there might be a 2-foot advance, others possibly 6 inches, or nothing. It all depended on the problems encountered on the day before. And while they did that, while they were moving over, they had to turn it a quarter of a turn to get past another building on campus. Unbelievable. So what I did was I just wonder what it looks like over there again. So I did. I walked in, and as you walk in up the steps there, you get over there, and inside the main, you can see the beautiful woodwork, and it's absolutely gorgeous in there, like it would have been back then. And a lot of the woodwork is still there. In the flooring, I suppose that's been updated. I don't know, but it's old-time stuff. And they've got great big display cases up on the walls in that area there that explains all this thing I just got done telling you. And really, really neat, and I think it's fun. This is our campus. This is our university. It's right here in town. It's free to walk in the door. The door's unlocked. Go down there during the day. And go down there as it looked like you're a tourist from out of town. I was from Coralville. I had a pair of shorts on and a baseball hat and a T-shirt, tennis shoes, and I walked in the door and I read those things. I just kind of snooped around without making myself snoopy looking, and away I went about my business. So that's what I want you to do. Have you been in the new art museum down where Nagel Lumber used to be? The best lumber yard by a damn sight. Think that through. Best lumberyard by a damn sight. Think that through if you're from Iowa City. So those are things you could do right here in town. Have you visited the university where the new swimming pool is down there? Go in that building and walk in and see that beautiful swimming pool. It is an Olympic-sized pool with the low diving board, the great big tower. Folks, get in these things. It's right there. It's right there. It's beautiful. We have some wonderful structures in this town for sure. Well, I want to. When I was a kid, we always ended, even as an adult, we ended up seeing this crazy lady come out on Ed Sullivan. He was on all the talk shows, as all the show variety shows. I guess during the variety shows. She was a train wreck, in my opinion. A great laugh, a wonderful out of bounds laugh. She's scared to death if you ran into her in the alley. I think Phyllis Diller. Well, she died a long time ago, but she died when she's 95. Now, she wasn't on TV up until then, but what I would call what a train wreck, what a dumpster fire, and her looking anyhow, not in her real life. She was a hoot, and she said this couple things. She said, remember, she lived till she's 95 lived out in Hollywood. Never go to bed mad. Stay up and fight. Well, I don't know if that was her line or not, but hell with that. I'm going to go to bed. I don't know about you. We'll fight this out in the morning. I'm at the age that my back goes out more than I do. Isn't that a good one? Housework won't kill you, but why take a chance? So that's a scoop from Phyllis Diller. Boy, I miss people like that in those variety shows. They were fun. I really, really do miss that. So folks, you're listening today. If your parents or you are grandparents and parents, make sure you're nice to your kids, as they're the ones who are going to be choosing where you go for the rest home. So that's the story. It's my pleasure to have you join us on Senior Talk, and my salute to any and all of you who have served and who are serving in the armed forces. My salute to all those at the Coralville American Legion, the Iowa City American Legion, the Solon American Legion, the North Liberty American Legion, North Liberty American Legion, Lone Tree American Legion, and probably the ones I forgot. If I missed you on West Branch, I apologize. Oxford and Tiffin Lone Tree. Thank you for serving, and thank you all for listening. This is Rex Brandstatter from Senior Talk saying we'll see you next time. So long.
Looking for a place with a fun, casual atmosphere? Check out the Solon